Now, what we're seeing is everything you see coming in, you got to see going out. All of the
You know we can probably hear you.
Let me go out and come back in.
No, no, we can hear you now.
Okay,
Hey, so
so
bots, if you bring that other one back up from Arizona, where they also explain or examine, I want you to walk through that, Rod, how they claim whatever they claim was the basis of them bestowing this land back to the imposters on the reservation. But go ahead, brother Cook.
yeah, you got to remember when they was doing the Trail of Tears and they was creating the Dawes Road, right? All these things are contemporary. They switching us out. The elders used to tell the story when they came to get people to go on the reservation, and they used to say the Indian train is coming. Are you getting on? And when they say no, we're not getting on, we wasn't no longer Indians. We was Negroes now. This was the paper genocide that they was telling in the oral tradition. And the Indian schools was being populated with Mongolians, where they taught them how to be us. As they became graduates, that means they're adults now, marching on the Trail of Tears. Some of the people went with them, and this is how they got their native blood from the tribes that did go on the Trail of Tears and marched to Oklahoma with them. All this land right here that you see was already set aside as the conclusion of the Trail of Tears. Excuse me. So when they made the treaty in 1866, they was relocating a sizable tribe from move to the Oklahoma Territory, right? All of the Supreme Court doing is saying they already had this allotted for the freedmen, and they never made it there because they end up populating various cities in the southeast because they was being murdered on the Trail of Tears. So that's so they can switch us out. So now you have the ceremonial tribe, which is not the original tribe. The ceremonial tribe can act on behalf of the tribe with the tribe's blessing if the tribe does not have a qualified member to fulfill the function. So this is why you see those Muskogee Creek that went into Atlanta and Cop City to put them on public notice they was following the tribal tradition. And that's why she had to read it and not just pass it to him and leave it. She had this mention in there, in the document she's reading, it say both the Muskogee Creek and ceremonial Muskogee Creek. So she identifying both tribes, which is actually tribe and adopted tribe, to do the work on behalf of the tribe because most of us were scared to do it. So we had a lot of help from people that don't look like us, reclaiming everything, like the dude with the helmet sitting behind Pelosi's desk was taking us from Admiralty jurisdiction back to the Republic so that they can give it back to the tribes. As long as we was under Admiralty jurisdiction, we was at the mercy of the Vatican in Buckingham Palace.
So
As
could
soon
you
as we
clarify how citizenship has turned into a process of enslavement?
because in order to be a citizen, you have to be a registered piece of property to a nation. Every citizen's registration number is called your social security number. In Auschwitz, they called it your tattoo. It's the same thing. One was tattooed in their skin, the other one was given to you on a piece of paper. So the citizen is actually the property of the nation state. In this case, the nation state is Washington, D.C., who's asserting occupation rights in the interim capacity of government until such time as the rightful tribes remember that they had a tribal right to reclaim the land, at which time they would have to systematically close. But you have to get us back from admiralty to republic, and then you will see the courts start making the rulings synonymous with when the republic made the treaty with the tribe. We just looking at them reverse engineering the whole screw job. They just reversing the screw out. Ain't none of it new. They already owed them people that stuff. They was already promised that earlier in the corporate history. They just doubling back, trying to make it look like they was really working for us when all the time we know they've been faking the funk the whole time.
Because we're dealing with outlaws. Could you do me a favor, Dots, and go back to that Arizona article and scroll down to the Q&A portion? Because I want you to chop that up, Rod. The Q&A portion of the article.
What did you say, Alibama? Sorry.
The other article that was from Arizona, because that was referring to a book that was analyzing the Supreme Court ruling, which is McGirt versus Oklahoma. Are you hip to that case, Rod?
I'm not.
You'll see the first question.
Okay.
And if you could, maybe zoom in so Rod can see it. I'd like at least a couple of questions, Rod, if you could walk through them and respond to that Q&A. You see that back and forth going on there? Take a couple of those questions, brother. Chop that up.
Okay. You want me to ask the question? It says your book is titled A Promise Kept. What was the original promise made to the Creeks by the Supreme Court?
Did he give the answer?
You want me to read it? The promise was that in exchange for Muskogee Creek Nation homelands in present-day Georgia and Alabama, the United States would guarantee lands for the Creeks in present-day Oklahoma.
That's exactly what I was just talking about. I had the geography wrong, but this is what I was talking about.
Okay. Once on those new lands, the Creeks would govern themselves and have jurisdiction over their territories in perpetuity, which is like forever.
Yeah.
Miller says this promise to the Creeks and other removed groups was made in the 1830 Indian Removal Act, reiterated in the 1832 treaty with the Creeks, which was the Treaty for Creek Removal, and in the 1866 United States Treaty with the Creek Nation, the treaty forged after the Civil War. That's interesting. Okay. Why weren't those promises kept? Etheridge says
they never had any intention of keeping them.
Before the ink even dried on these treaties, the federal government began interfering with Native American sovereignty and jurisdictions, right? So this thing is problematic for me already because of that Native Americans, right? Because that's always I feel like, all right, let me keep my comments on myself. All right, and once Oklahoma gained statehood, it began to encroach on Native American rights. The federal government for decades turned a blind eye to Oklahoma and other state encroachments. So why were federal and state governments interfering and trying to usurp the promise? It's fairly simple. They wanted the land. Miller says the land and all of its assets, including oil, timber, and minerals.
Now, I want you to go maybe one more Q&A exchange there, and remember Tulsa, Viola Ford Fletcher, and I'll even throw in the Osage Nation. Remember the bullshit killers of the Flower Moon, Rod? Mm-hmm. Cook, Dots, cook.
Okay, next question. Explain the Trail of Tears and other atrocities Native Americans endured because of the defiance of the original Supreme Court decision. Miller says, the Indian Removal Act of 1830 was a dark stain on American history. Today, we would call what the United States did ethnic cleansing. Other tribes were also removed to the Native American territory. My tribe was located in Ohio when we signed a treaty of removal in 1831, and then we were removed to where we are today, in the northeast corner of Oklahoma. Etheridge says, the Trail of Tears is the name of the deadly 1,000-mile route that the Cherokee Nation was forced to follow when they were moved from present-day North Carolina and Tennessee to present-day Oklahoma. It has also come to refer to the removal of any of the 5 civilized tribes, including Cherokee, Creek, Seminole, Choctaw, Chickasaw, from the southeast. The United States government, wanting to acquire all indigenous lands east of the Mississippi River, forcibly removed most of the Native Americans, nearly 100,000 people living there. Each nation signed a separate removal treaty, but almost always under threat and duress. These treaties forced them to relinquish their homelands for lands in Oklahoma, in Kansas, Nebraska, and parts of Iowa. Most resisted and were removed at gunpoint. Many of them lost their lives on the long march. Some perished once they arrived in Oklahoma because of the disease-infested and poorly supplied camps. And many simply died from broken hearts. Scholars estimate that about 33% of the Creek population was lost in the removal years. It was one of the darkest and dastardly episodes in American history.
When you pause there, Dots, and again, this is just my perspective, it could be my opinion. The Negroes died, those that may have been relocated, okay? The imposters were set up when they got in Oklahoma. You feel me, sis?
But isn't that wording problematic for y'all, the Native Americans?
It is. But let me leave you with this last point.
Okay.
The fact that Viola Ford Fletcher is still alive. The ongoing crime is the bodies are being dug up as we speak. The mass graves are being unearthed in the same land that's being handed to the imposters. You follow me now, sis?
Yeah.
But she's being referred to as black or a descendant of an African slave, and I yield.
Right.
That was part of the paper genocide to write us as African slaves, but we was here the whole time.
Yep.
The whole thing was the same story I was just telling. They just was telling in there,
Yeah.
right? And the government, remember, they had waged war against us, and they made the original treaties is between them and them, not between us. The tribal treaties that they made with the 5 civilized tribes was their attempt to hold the bear at bay. So 5,000 tribes.
Yeah.
We're not going to leave the fate of all of us to the hands of 5 tribes. Right? We had tribal networks and confederations that were set up to protect parts of the land.
Yep.
This is why in the South, the Confederates was the Iroquois Confederacy. And they got us believing that there was some pale-skinned hillbillies riding around on white horses with white hoods on, and nothing could be further from the truth. The North was settled by the Cherokee Confederacy, which includes several tribes. But Cherokee is the catch term used to incorporate many tribes and non-tribal membership under a tribal control system that became their constitutional government.
Yep.
Right now, we have this interim George Washington established government hijacking the Continental Congress that was supposed to have been us asserting our jurisdiction. They replaced us with the George Washington Masonic government that was under the control of Albert Pike's morals and dogma concepts. And that was a conjure, a sorcery, witchcraft, whatever you want to call it, to keep us from ever remembering who we were by changing the narrative. This was the purpose of the paper genocide, to confuse who we are when we look in the history books and to teach us to disregard what our elders told us and believe what the historians wrote. We don't always believe them because some of the stuff don't match up with what my grandma told me, what Papa told me. It ain't matching, but it's their history, and history is written by the victors. So then you ask yourself, if the victors wrote the history, how will they tell the story to keep the conquered from rising up from under the conquest? Always confuse their identity of self. It's the George Washington challenge. 200 years later, will they know who they are? Will they know what side of the ocean they originate from? Tell them they from Africa. Tell them they ain't from here. But all of the mounds say different. All of the artwork say different. The pottery and the crafts say different. Our understanding of how we move on the land say we've been here. So now you see them scurrying in their system to make arrangements to fit their narrative into the reversal of what they did in the first place as the dirt. You can't fix it now. It's too far gone. But the appearance of fixing it is actually backstepping you out of the process. The same thing they should have did in 1866, they want to do in 2025. That don't make sense unless it's an agenda attached. And that's most likely the case. And the case is they have to take the Republic from the Admiralty in order to give the law of the land back to the tribes. You don't silence that.
I don't know if you wanted to do any more interactions on that Q&A. I just wanted to bring it to you so you saw where, and by the way, this was from 2023, McGirt v. Oklahoma. And until Viola Ford Flesher's issue is presented correctly, because this last ruling from the Oklahoma Supreme Court, which had one of the judges in tears, was based on a nuisance suit, a public nuisance suit. The bodies are still being dug up from the massacre.
They still have
an ongoing crime. There's no statute of limitations on murder.
Yeah, but look, they still haven't overturned the Dred Scott case. That means that it's still active in law. Whether we think it's active or not in our day-to-day life, in the system of law and jurisprudence, the Dred Scott case, where we have no rights that they bound to respect, still applies in their system until they overturn the ruling. So anytime that we make a complaint, it's irrelevant to us because we outlaw tribes. We didn't have anything to do with their system. So when we get caught in their system, they have no regard for us. We don't have no party to we ain't got no dog in that fight. We just there at their dog fight. So they don't have they feed us to the dogs. It don't matter to them because it's a military conquest in the first place. The conqueror makes the rules, and the conquered follow suit until he realizes that he's been conquered, and he rallied the troops in order to reclaim what's rightfully his. Right? She gonna get what she got coming to her. But the problem is until we realize who we are in enough quantity to reach critical mass, we're going to still be seeing it. They following their rules. They wrote the rules. I didn't write them. I read them. Because whenever the cheater is playing the game, you got to go in his rule book in order to enforce the rules.
Now, Rob, what you just said was the pushing the black narrative. And I'm not disagreeing with none of what you just said. But pushing the black narrative shows and proves you're being made a black condition. Black is not a people. It is a treatment.
It is a culture.
It is oppression. It is condition. And when they put that woman up there and hoping she dies, and she says she will stay as long as she needs to stay. I'm talking about Viola Ford Fletcher, 111. That black don't crack. Okay? But the other black, which is supposed to be in the black, that's the only good thing, Rod. We need to get broke off, bro. And I yield. Y'all have a good evening.
I concur with exactly what you just said.
Some people see black as being a culture. I'm one of them. Be honest.
So when they started calling us black, it was in relation to the caste system and the chess game.
But you know us as a people, we could take one thing and turn it into something completely different. That
Yeah, we turned it into art.
we turned it into art. That's what I'm saying. Black is, to me, like it's a culture. It's something stronger than it became. It became. I would say that. So Alibaba won't think I'm being disrespectful. It became something stronger than what they, just as strong as what they try to put on it for us.
Everything they did to hold us down, we found a way to either make it look good or feel good.
Thank you, Rod.
Over
You
time.
said yes, and that is us. That is something that only culturally we do. That's what we do. Okay, so is there anything else you wanted to say about that, Dots? Because that was your
No, I think that's a great closing.
mm-hmm.
I do.
Because we're having a part two that we've already talked about because I tried to squeeze him out for tomorrow or Sunday. He said we gotta do it Monday, but we must and we have to because it is very vital and important that we speak on this. All not that we care, but yet we care about this all white community that is being. And look, you got your face all smiled up. I don't know if Ali Bamboo heard about it yet, but this all white community that is being made in Missouri, I think it's Arkansas, Missouri. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Am I right? Right, it's in Arkansas. And what they're saying is no blacks, actually, no other race. And no homosexuals, LBG, all the the alphabets, all of that are not allowed in this community. I guess they're gonna have their own banks, their own supermarkets, their own jobs. I mean, well, we all know that they're gonna be using everything that everybody that is not white invented in a land that they stole, and starting this whole thing on a land that they stole. But it is a subject that I think that we need to talk about.
More than a comment, I got a serious question.
Please don't. Okay, if you say, why do we care? Okay, go ahead.
Who paying for this?
Okay. Okay. I think that they've tried to do this many times when they tried to move out of the city, and the city was actually, I think, supposed to be for them at first, but they moved out of the city when in suburban areas. I think because where I live at right now, there was a time that black people were not allowed in this area that I live in right now.
Listen,